Video transitions are short-term effects that only occur on the cut between two clips to blend from one to the other. But Premiere Pro also includes a number of video effects that you can apply to the actual clips on your timeline to permanently alter the way they look. You will find these video effects again in the Effects panel. This time under Video Effects, let's expand that. And now I have a bunch of plugins installed, so I have a lot more folders than you might find on your machine, but there will be some very basic ones for color correction, distorting layers, or generating different effects. So with this dramatic moon clip selected, let me just zoom in a little bit. Let's open up the color correction folder, and in here maybe let's apply a brightness and contrast effect. Now there's two ways to apply effects. You can either drag and drop them from the effects panel directly onto the clip, or let's not do that for now. With the clip selected, simply double click the effect in the effects panel. That is also going to apply the effect. You'll see this little FX icon here turn green, so that means there's one or more effects applied on this clip. You can see the bunny stay here over on the left hand side. It does not have that green icon, it's just grayed out. So this one does not have any effects, but we've applied a brightness and contrast effect to this clip. However, nothing really changed, and that's because we haven't actually adjusted the effect settings. The effect settings for any effect that you have applied to your clip, similar to the settings for a transition, can be found in the Effects Controls panel. So with the dramatic moon clip selected, come up into the Effect Controls panel. Now in here we've already talked about the motion, opacity, we'll touch on a little bit later. Let's come down, and in here you'll actually find all and any effects that you have applied to this clip. Right now we have a brightness and contrast effect here, and that effect has two settings, a brightness and a contrast value. You can either type something in here, so maybe I want this clip to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to type -10, and immediately you can see that my clip got darker. You can click on this little FX icon here to disable or enable this effect. You can also, instead of typing in a value, you can actually just click, hold and drag towards the right or the left to kind of increase or decrease the value. Maybe I'll give it a little bit of contrast, maybe 10 or so. It's just going to make this whole shot look a whole lot more dramatic. But maybe I also want to add a little bit of color. So let's apply another effect. In the Effects panel under Color Correction, let's grab this Color Balance effect. Grab that and drag and drop it onto the dramatic moon. Now you may see that the top of your timeline has gone red. That means that Premiere Pro needs to actually do some processing to process any effects that are applied to this clip. So this may not render out in real time anymore. It may be just a little bit slow until you actually export the video, and then it'll just play fine. It's just while playing this back on your timeline, this just indicates there's a bit of processing for Premiere Pro to do. Now with the clip selected, let's come back into the effect controls. And under the brightness and contrast effect, we will now also find a color balance effect. And this allows you to change the red, green and blue that you can see in the dark, mid or bright areas of your footage. Let's just say I want the dark areas of my footage to be a bit more blue. So I'm going to increase the shadow blue balance by clicking on it and dragging it over to the right hand side a little bit. I'm going to lower the red, again, click on it and pull to the left. And obviously do whatever you want with these effects or apply any effects that you want. I'm really just trying to show you the concepts, and what you do with them, again, is totally up to you. Let's bring a little bit of green into the highlights. Let's just increase this green value here a little bit. And suddenly we've got this really dramatic looking shot. Let's disable the color balance and disable the brightness and contrast effect. So that's where we started. Apply brightness and contrast and apply the color balance. And we've essentially transformed the look and feel of this clip. Now, within every effect, you will find an ellipse, a rectangle and a pen tool. These ones allow you to define where on your footage those effects are present. So let's select under the color balance, let's select this ellipse here, click on it, and that's going to add an elliptical mask into your program monitor that defines where this color balance effect is now going to occur. You can grab these corner points and bring them out or in to essentially control where any of these effects are applied. And this works for all effects that you may apply to your clip. Now, masks we get in a little bit later. Just note that they have a mask path, which is the shape of the mask itself. You can animate that, control that, even track it to your video. There's some fancy stuff you can do. The more important things is the mask feather, which is the harshness of the edge. So if you bring up this mask feather here, what's going to happen is you can see that the effect kind of fades in. So it doesn't just harshly cut off at the mask's edge, it kind of blends in a little bit nicer. You can control the opacity, how opaque that mask and therefore this particular color balance effect is. Let's just leave it at 100. And you can bring up or down the mask expansions, which pushes the radius of this mask out. So if I increase the mask expansion, you can see that the size of the mask and therefore the area of this effect increases. You can decrease that as well, and you can play around with these. In order to delete a mask again, just select it, press delete on your keyboard. That'll remove the mask, and the color balance effect is now applied onto the entirety of the clip again. Other controls you will find for your effects is this little revert icon that'll just reset all of these parameters to their default value, and we'll lose our currently applied color balance effect. On the left side of all of these properties, you'll also find a stopwatch, and this allows you to add keyframes and animation to these properties, but we will get into that in a later lesson. Now, the last thing I want to cover are master clip effects. Let's zoom out a little bit, come back to this bunny, and let's apply an effect to this bunny to stylize up the way this clip looks. Now, this is going to be a little bit trippy, but just follow along. It's really just an example. In the effects panel, come into the Generate tab, open this up, and in here you can actually generate a whole bunch of different patterns and shapes or lightning effects, lens flares, a whole bunch of cool stuff. Now I'm going to grab this 4-color gradient, drag and drop that onto my bunny stare, and that's essentially going to fill this layer with a gradient made from 4 colors. In my Effect Controls panel, with that clip selected, if you come down a little bit into the settings for the 4-color gradient, you can determine where these points are positioned. You can actually click and drag them directly in the program monitor as well. So you can kind of define custom gradients. You can give them custom colors. You can also blend it with the original. But what I want to do is I want to change my blending mode for this 4-color gradient from none over to screen. So this 4-color gradient kind of gets blended on top of this bunny. Now, this clip is called Bunny Stare. Imagine this is a really long clip, and somewhere else in your edit you're using a part of that clip. Let's zoom out a little bit, grab this Bunny Stare clip again from our project folder, drag and drop that into our timeline, and if you preview this clip does not have any effects applied to it, and sure enough, in the effects controls, there is no 4-color gradient in here. However, sometimes you may want to apply an effect to the actual underlying clip so that no matter which snippet or which copy of that clip you are using on your timeline, the same effects will be applied. And that's where master clip effects are really useful. Let's come back to this first Bunny Stare clip that has this colorful rainbow gradient over it. Come into the effect controls, select this 4-color gradient and press Ctrl or Command and X to cut it out. Now, in this Effects Controls panel, you will see 2 tabs. There's actually a Master Star Bunny Stare and then My First Edit Star Bunny Stare. Right now, we've got the second one selected, which is only representing this particular clip in this timeline. So it's just this instance of the clip. It doesn't refer to the second one. However, if I change my tab here over into Master Bunny Stare, and now click into this and press Ctrl or Command and V to paste my 4-color gradient into here, the effect is immediately back on this particular clip, but the effect is not associated with this clip. It's associated with this piece of footage in my project panel. You can even see in my project panel, this effect is now applied. And if I scrub over the second copy of this clip, that clip also has this effect. But if you select the clip, come into the effect controls and select the My First Edit Star Bunny Stare, in here, the 4-color gradient isn't applied because it sits under the master clip effects in here. And this is where I can now control this effect for any copy, any instance, any snippet of this clip from my project that I'm using anywhere on my timeline. Now, let's delete this Bunny Stare clip again, come back a little bit, and on this bunny clip, let's come into the master clip effects in the effects controls panel. Let me just delete this 4-color gradient in here. It's just a little bit too trippy, but I just wanted to show you as an example. Now, besides video effects and video transitions, Adobe Premiere Pro also contains audio effects and audio transitions, and let's have a quick look at how you can use them in the next lesson.